Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Council of Elrond. I'm Dave and with me is my brother and co-host Johnny, son of dad, son of granddad, son of great-granddad. On today's episode we are taking a deep dive into the city of Minas Tirith. We'll be discussing the history, the layout and pretty much everything there is to know about the great Gondorian stronghold. So please join us in breaching the lore of the White City. It was actually quite hard to say Great Gondorian stronghold. Great Gondorian.
Grand. Oh.
Grand door. Oh my god. I never thought about that. Grand door.
Oh my
Right.
god. Oh.
There's so many levels.
Grand door.
7 levels of Minas Tirith. Alright, we should get into this.
That's actually amazing. What a discovery we've
Yeah,
just
I never thought about that. Yeah, just like literally on the spot. Like
We've just worked out how Tolkien's brain works.
I don't think anyone will work that out. Anyways, so let's get into, first of all, like the breakdown of the name Minas Tirith. So I don't really expect much from you, but do you know what the city of Minas Tirith means?
I've become accustomed to that. People not expecting much from me. Sorry, I wasn't listening to the question. Don't expect me to listen to your questions.
Don't expect you to answer or listen to the questions.
Yeah.
The name Minas Tirith. Do you know actually what it means?
Oof. Nah.
In Lord of the Rings language.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I remember reading, but like, my brain doesn't really retain that information. It's like, I don't know. I know like the Amun Sul and those type of things are like tower. I can't remember what Minas means. It's probably like stronghold or something. But I can't remember.
Yeah, well, Minas means tower as well.
Okay.
So
All right. Okay.
I'm trying to remember. Amun Hen, Amun Sul, they also mean tower. Doesn't Amun mean tower as well? Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah. But but as soon as you asked me Minas Tirith, I just had the word tower come to my brain. But I thought, oh no, that must be Amun. So I don't know. So maybe there's two.
Could
words
be
for
another
tower.
language. It's very complicated.
It could be
Maybe
like
one's Quenya and the other Sindarin or something.
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't know. I didn't deep dive that much, but yeah.
God damn it, Dave. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
I know, but there's so many things in this where it's like, okay, that person's name means this, and I could look up what their father's name means because that also relates to this.
Are you telling me you didn't learn Elvish for this podcast?
I mean, like the people.
The one
don't
thing I
care.
asked you to do, Dave, just this week, just learn Sindarin, okay?
Yeah, just get your A's to C's.
Not even Quenya.
All right,
just
fair
Sindarin.
enough. I'm sorry.
Next time.
I'll do it for the next one. But anyways, Minas is tower and Tirith is guard. So like literal translation,
yeah.
tower, guard. So tower of guard or guarded city. I think Minas also kind of means city as
like
well.
Towered city, like tiered city or something.
Yeah, tiered city. I like that. But originally, Minas Tirith was called Minas Arnor, meaning Tower of the Sun or the Sun City. So also the Rohirrim, which is kind of separate, they call Minas Tirith the Mundberg, which is another weird name. But in their Rohirric language, that literally translates to Guardian Fortress. So there's all sorts of little names for this same city. It's also referred to as the City of Kings, which is interesting because it wasn't first of all, it wasn't always renowned as a city, and it isn't where the kings used to be. Now we know that the kings were buried there, like in the back area of Minas Tirith. That's where all the kings were buried, but it was never the capital. It wasn't the capital for most of its existence, and the kings were never there. It's only in the Third Age that we see, the throne room there and the citadel and all that. But yeah, so I'm not really sure, was it referred to as the City of Kings? There's so many different reasons why it could have been referred to that, but like I don't know how long it had been referred to as the City of Kings. But I don't know, it's a very kingly looking city.
Sure is.
Or sorry, fortress. So that's another thing. It's like the City of Kings, it's not a city, it doesn't have kings. So anyways,
terrible
potato tomato.
What did you say was the name that the Rohirrim gave it? It was like a very German sounding word.
Yeah, the Mundberg.
Yeah, that sounds German. Are the Rohirrim, I'm trying to remember, do they have any sort of like a German origin kind of a thing? Like
I know Rohirric is based on Anglo-Saxon, so
Yeah.
I think that's where Mundberg comes from there as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means.
Because we did
but yeah.
we did an episode on like where Tolkien got his inspirations and his ideas from before, and I was trying to rack my brain there, saying, like, were the Germans involved? They're usually involved. Those sneaky Germans.
Are Anglo-Saxons? That's kind of German.
It's German. Germanic. Yeah, Germany. Germanish.
Yeah. Germanish.
Minas Tirith, City of Kings.
So getting on to the actual history of the city itself, or the fortress. I keep referring it to a city, but it is a city. It becomes a city. The fortress was built to guard the capital city of Osgiliath in the year 3320 in the Second Age by the Dunedain of Gondor. Basically, the Númenóreans who escaped the destruction of Númenor the year prior. It was at that time named Minas Anor, like I mentioned earlier, which means Tower of the Sun. It served as the home of Anarion, and his name means Son of Sun.
Because he was Isildur's brother.
He was Isildur's brother, but Son of Sun as in like S-O-N of S-U-N. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So, and then on the other side, Minas Ithil, which was the city on the opposite side of Osgiliath, became the dwelling place of Anarion's brother Isildur, like you mentioned. You wouldn't happen to remember or know what Isildur's name means, because it's a weird one.
I don't know if I've ever even.
Well, we have the sun, or the son of sun. So, do you know what the other guy would be?
Son of the moon.
You're pretty close. Yeah, servant of the moon is what Isildur's name is, which is kind of cool.
I never knew that. I knew, like, it's so weird how, like, we know so much more about Isildur than we do about Anarion. Yet I knew what Anarion's name meant, and I didn't know what Isildur's name is. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But also, do you remember that? Do you remember when we got the first images from the upcoming Ring of Power series? We got the first images, and there was a guy holding a sword with an image of a sun on it. And I think we've found out that that's actually Isildur holding the sword, and that sword is going to be the sword that's broken. I know it looks completely different, but they don't have the rights to using those the same style as Peter Jackson's one. But a lot of people were saying, oh, maybe that's Anarion because he had like a sun on his breastplate and he had a sun symbol on the sword and stuff. So people were saying, oh, well, if he's the son of the sun, well, then that would make sense. So, but turned out it wasn't. It's the guy who's the servant of the moon has got all this stuff with the sun. So
well, maybe he's got some of his brother's merch or
hand-me-downs. Or hand-me-ups.
Yeah, exactly. Hand-me-ups and hand-me-downs. So Isildur, so his name, I know we're kind of going off track here, but servant of the moon, and it kind of comes from, well, I suppose there's other words in the lore of Tolkien, like Ithil and Ithilien. Ithilien is lands of the moon, and then I was just going to go on to say that the other, did I mention this? The other city, Minas Ithil, is basically city of the moon.
Do you...
Yes, you had an ooh there.
I do, because I have a question for you, which is, what is the name of the Elven or Dwarven, the Elven script that they use that is only seen by moonlight?
That's not Tengwar, no?
No, so not the name of the script, but I don't even, I mean, I'm asking you this question off the top of my head. I don't even really know how to correctly ask the question or how to correctly answer it even, but basically they say, it's the name of the light. Excuse me, it's the name of the light that illuminates the script. I'll give you a clue. This sounds a lot like those words that you were just using.
So it's obviously like Ithilden or something like that.
Yes, that's exactly it. Ithilden. Yeah, well done, Dave. Ithilden light.
Nice.
Ithilden light.
Yeah. Because I remember that's like how the Doors of Doran were built as well with the Ithilden light.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all making sense. I love when this happens. It's like all these words. It's like, Ithilien, Ithilden, Isildur, all that kind of stuff. It's cool. Yeah, so Minas Ithil goes, that basically means city of the moon. So anyways, even though both brothers' thrones were sat side by side in Osgiliath, they did have their own homes of Minas Ithil and Minas Arnor. Like they were kind of like where they resided and slept and whatever. They obviously just came to Osgiliath to, do beheadings and give out law and whatever they did in the city. But yeah,
that's about it. Yeah.
So the fortress of Minas Arnor was named so for 2,000 years until the Witch King and his Nazgul returned from their defeat against the Northern Realms to finally take over Minas Ithil, which again, I mentioned, is Tower of the Moon. I don't know, I love saying the word moon. It's kind of... The moon is in the correct position.
The stars are not in position for this tribute.
Like he says, stars. Can't do it. Not today.
So Minas Ithil's name was changed to what, Jonathan?
Did you already tell me?
No.
Oh, right, sorry. I thought it was like, were you listening? Which I wasn't.
No.
Sorry. Minas Ithil, Tower of the Moon, was changed to... Was it something bad? Did it become...
Yeah, you know this place from...
Cirith Ungol?
No.
Minas Morgul?
Yes, well done.
Okay.
Minas Morgul. So again, for reference, if you guys have only seen the movies, you might know. You might know from the map as well. We got Minas Tirith, and then Osgiliath in the middle, and then Minas Ithil or Minas Morgul, as it's named in the Third Age. So Minas Morgul, again, looking up the meaning behind that is Tower of Dark Sorcery. I think we mentioned it before in a previous episode. And then Minas Anor changed its name to Minas Tirith, meaning Tower of the Guard, as it was now more of a stronghold against the forces of Mordor than the Pleasant Sun City, where everything was good and dandy. And also, I think just the fact that like the Moon City was gone, they had to like stop calling this one the Sun City, because it was like, that doesn't make any sense. We just got to call it like Tower Guard. But yeah, so there you go. Also, at the time of the name change, it had already been the chief city of Gondor, as Osgiliath had been crippled by the civil war known as the Kinstrife, and the kings had left Osgiliath and had taken up residence in Minas Anor for 400 years before being renamed Minas Tirith.
Wow.
So there you go. That's just a brief little history on...
It's mad how like you could have a city that, as you were saying, was quite an important city. Obviously, maybe it wasn't the capital at the time, but a really, really important city, and like, I don't know, Chicago, for example. And then one day they're like, right, it's not called Chicago anymore. Now it's called something completely different. You're like, oh, but I've been living there. My father and his father and his father's father lived here, and they were all from whatever the address was. And then suddenly it's like, no, new name.
True. I mean, there's probably real instances of that. Isn't Constantinople... Isn't that renamed something else now?
Sure, that's Istanbul.
That's Istanbul, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
so there's
good. Well done, Dave. Well done. You put me right in my place.
Thank you. Trying to think of other places, but then as well, you got like, you know, in our own country, we've got Ireland, and we've probably had people hundreds of years ago calling Dublin Ballyahaclia, and then suddenly the Brits come in and they're like,
yeah, it's different language though.
I know, but like nobody calls it Ballyahaclia anymore.
We do. We say Galiev and Ballyahaclia.
Yeah, maybe. So on to the actual description of the city, because I think from watching the films, everyone has their own ideas of how a lot of Peter Jackson's vision of Lord of the Rings was to look. And to be fair to him, he did a lot of things right. I think one thing he did with Minas Tirith that was a bit off scale was just the actual size of it, in terms of he made it look like so massive, whereas it was massive, but it wasn't as massive as it probably looked in the films. So Minas Tirith is built on a sloping hill which sits at the base of Mount Mindalluin, which in Sindarin means towering blue head. So there's we're getting a lot of Sindarin and Quenya lessons here. Actually, I don't know if any of these are Quenya, but definitely Sindarin. So this was the easternmost peak of the Ered Nimras, which are the White Mountains. So this hill rises to the 5th level of Minas Tirith, and then the top 2 levels are built fully with Gondorian rock foundations. So obviously they just had to... So the mountain wasn't big enough, so they had to like extend it a little bit more. So the city, as it's also depicted in Peter Jackson's trilogy quite accurately, is built around a great knee of the mountain, or as described in the books as a sail. So this sail of rock stretches 700 foot from the base of the mountain to the very tippity top of the city and juts out, splitting the city into two halves.
Wow, yeah.
It's also mentioned that the citadel rings a bell upon the hour of each day, which kind of reminds me of the Irish culture here, you know, and maybe we don't get it every hour of the day anymore, but, you know, you get to hear the bell chiming at 12 o'clock. And
Wait, so what, they ring the bell every hour of every day?
every hour of every day, just to, I don't know, keep all the people in check and they know what time it is. And
Reminds me
I
of
just think
like
it's kind of cool.
the Robin Hood cartoon where it's like 4 o'clock and all's well. And like there's the guy that says that every single hour. Do you remember that?
That's a throwback. Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that.
It's in the cartoon version, and then it's like there's one that like the prison guards is trying to sleep, and he's like, he has a big argument with the other guy. He's like, "Why do you keep saying all's well? I'm trying to sleep over here. Like, I don't need to hear you saying all's well all the time." And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, what the hell is that
that's a
guy
movie I want to go back and watch, actually.
Yeah,
Because I think I saw a picture from it recently and I was like, oh, looks so good.
yeah. Just,
Also,
I haven't
Prince
seen
of
it in years.
Thieves.
Yeah, sure. Kevin Costner, classic,
Yeah.
and Morgan Freeman.
And Morgan Freeman. And Sean Connery for like 10 seconds at the end when he comes in as Richard III.
Oh, yeah. God, it's been so long. I don't
Sorry.
remember much of that movie.
Robin of Locksley. So, on to kind of the layout of the city itself. We don't actually have information about all the levels, but I can describe what was on some of them. So, let me see. Will we start from... Well, I will start with level 1 because that's the most boring. So, on level 1, the only thing that we know of is the white paved street with a little inn called the Old Guest House. And then we don't really know what goes on for the next, like, 4 levels. Quick math. But then on level 6, we have... The stables are on level 6. So unlike Rohan, Gondor is not really known for their cavalry, and they mainly use horses for like messengers who would be out there sending messages for the kings and the stewards and whatnot on the 7th floor. So ideally the horses would want to be as close to the 7th floor as possible so that you know, they didn't have to go very far. Also, I think it makes sense because if you're looking at the city as a fortress, which it originally was, you wouldn't really have the stables on the bottom floor because, you know, if the city's being sacked, even if they just take over the ground floor, you don't want all your horses to be killed, or you don't want them like running around the whole city. So it makes sense to have them kind of higher up.
And what was was the layout quite similar then to Peter Jackson's in terms of how deep each level was? Or for example, did on one level, like on level 5 where the stables were, did the horses actually have, you know, bit of space there to have some fields to like roam around on, or was it more like, you know, you've got a road and that's it?
Like, to be honest, I think from what's mentioned, there were very few horses in the stables, and no, I don't think there was fields. Like, we'll get onto it in a little bit where we actually find out that the Pelennor fields themselves are huge. So maybe for like training and, you know, getting horses out and riding and stuff, they would have been doing a lot out in the Pelennor fields. But no, I don't think so. Again, there's very little information other than maybe a throwaway comment of the horse stables were on the 6th floor.
Like, oh, we're doing this podcast for all the information that's out there.
I know, but it's good to kind of expand the information and maybe embellish it a little bit.
For us to make just make shit up.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be making up shit in a couple of minutes, so we'll get on to that. But
Right.
also on the 6th floor, we have the Houses of Healing, which are seen in both the films and the books. Basically, it's just a fancy name for a hospital. So obviously you would want the hospital as near as possible to the people of importance up at the palace or in the citadel. But they were actually located right at the gates, like the nearest gate to the 7th floor. So it's the closest place possible without putting it on the 7th floor and having it take up, you know, some space up there, because you want to have the 7th floor looking very pretty, which we'll move on to now. And of course, the Houses of Healing is where Aragorn saves Éowyn, in case anybody didn't know that.
Sure.
But on to the
And Mary.
7th level. And Mary. Mary also saves Éowyn.
Yeah, but
Right.
Aragorn also says Merry.
And Mary also saves Pippin.
And Pippin's a dick.
Poor
just
Pippin.
so people know what's going on. Just to make it very...
Yeah, just so we know, Pippin's the dick. No, that's not true. That's not true.
Very good joke.
He's a fool, but an honest dick of a fool. So, on to the actual 7th level where we have most of the information from the books. We start off with the citadel itself, the hall and the throne room. Everything was built from stone and marble. There was absolutely no wood used, no tapestries. The statues of the kings of Gondor line each side of the courtroom. The courtroom, sorry. I don't know why I pronounced it so weird. The throne is white and high up the steps with the steward's throne in black at the foot. Sorry, let me say that.
I don't think you explained that very well.
Sorry, the throne is white and it's high up some steps, and then the steward's throne is black and at the very bottom, the foot of this,
like we see in the movies.
Exactly, and I think I remember from the behind the scenes of the Minas Tirith in the the appendices thing in the film, like the behind the scenes, basically, it was the most accurate representation of anything Peter Jackson did, like the actual throne room itself. I think everything, like everything was like, this is exactly how it was imagined. Even there was a crown that was hovering above the throne that was up on the top steps, and they had that perfectly. I think there was a white tree behind, like engraved into the rock, and it wasn't very hard to do, but like they did it really well. So
yeah.
Kudos, Peter. Then we have on the 7th floor, we also have the courtyard, the fountain and tree, which was guarded by the guards of the citadel, who guarded the entire 7th level, actually, and the gates themselves. They were like very special guards. They were like the highest honored guards, I suppose, like the
King's Guard.
They were the King's Guard, but it was like the most ceremonial, privileged guard. They had so many different levels of tiers of actual soldiers in Gondor, which is cool. We could talk about it in another podcast.
Did they have 7 tiers?
I don't know. They might have. But the cool thing about these guards were they had mithril helmets that shone with feathers of seabirds, and they also wear Elendil's livery, which is the white tree with 7 stars and the crown above it, whereas other soldiers just wear the standard white tree. So that's shown in Peter Jackson's quite well. So
did you say it's called a livery?
Yeah, like his
sigil type of thing.
His sigil, yeah.
I just thought it was your little pet name for his liver. They wore a piece of his liver.
Livery. That's like,
livery.
Have you seen it? Do you know in Peacemaker when he's like, oh, my pet eagle, Eagly? And they're like, do you have a pet dog called Doggy? Do you have a daughter called Daughtery? Yeah, so
that's class. My daughter, Daughtery.
Elendil calls his livery. Yeah, so there you go.
No, but that's really cool. That sigil, or that, like, as I've just learned, it's called a livery. The white tree with the crown and the 7 stars. It's really cool, and that's also the banner. What's the name of the banner? Flip, I can't remember. The thing that
the special one.
Yeah. Oh God, I did a whole.
Is there a name for the banner, or is it just like the banner of?
No, there's I can't,
or Elendil, I should say.
I definitely researched this loads when we were doing an episode about a year ago. Flip, can't remember.
If it helps in any way, I probably forgot like moments after you told me the name of that banner. So, like, you forget after a year, so that's fine.
Yeah. I'll see if
but it is that banner that we do see in the movies that Arwen is hiding behind when she's revealed at that scene when she gets to kiss Viggo Mortensen or Aragorn. So moving on, we have the White Tower of Ecthelion, and this is Ecthelion II, who also built the Ramas Akor, which we'll get onto in a moment. He repaired the White Tower and renamed it after himself, which is very modest of him. It rises 300 feet, making the city stand at 1,000 foot from the bottom of the gate to the tippity top of the White Tower. So 1,000 feet, it sounds pretty massive, but if you actually look at the Eiffel Tower, for example, that's 1,063. So it's big, but it's not big. It's still pretty big, but like, I think when you're looking at Peter Jackson's version of Minas Tirith, you're like, oh my God, that could be like 2 or 3 Eiffel Towers standing on top of each other.
Yeah.
There's also
the standard of Arwen. Sorry.
The standard. Oh, that's the name of the banner. Very good.
Yeah. There you go.
It just
Very
popped
important.
into your head there, did it? Yeah, so like I think there's other non-canon versions that talk about the city being like taller and wider and stuff, but that's kind of that's not Tolkien's words. And again, I don't know, I couldn't find exactly where Tolkien said it was 1,000 foot, but I think it's like heavily believed to be 1,000 feet. But
Tolkien only
maybe
works
it's
in
not.
round numbers, so that sounds good to me.
Yeah. And finally, on the 7th level, the other things that we know of are the houses of the Citadel Guard, the Steward, the King, and any important guests that are staying in Minas Tirith at the time. So there you go. That's
Muy bien.
all we know about the levels.
Very nice.
Muy bien indeed.
Where would you like to live? Which level would you be on?
Well, I don't know because we don't really know about the other levels, but I was going to get into what somebody else...
Well, the mysterious levels.
Yeah, like, I think I'd rather live higher up than lower down.
I would live on level 3. That's where I would live.
So we don't actually know what was on the other 4 levels, but it's nice to imagine what was built on each one. I actually was trying to find out if anyone knows what was on the other levels, but I found a lot of like fans pretending what was on other levels, which was quite cool. And on the blog site, middle-eartharchitecture.wordpress.com, the blogger imagines what could have been on the other levels of Minas Tirith to fill in the gaps, and he says, quote, "On the first level there were smiths and the armory, so the soldiers could have been ready in case of attack. The main market was also on the first level because it was the larger one, as I said, and is easily reachable also from other villages and fields." By the way, I'm not sure if this guy's first language is English, so I'm sorry if there's some inconsistencies, but it could be me as well.
Okay.
Another armory could have been on the second level, with mostly shops, inns and schools. My guess is that the residents started from the third level, so the unarmed population could stay safer in case of attack, if there was not the time to evacuate the city, of course. From the fourth level, we could find the residents from the middle class, or bourgeoisie, the public baths and the library. The aristocrats and dignitaries were in the 5th and 6th levels, closer to the king or the steward, and somewhere here there could also be the warehouse siege. So I don't know, I thought that whole thing was kind of cool. I was just like imagining kind of like on Age of Empires or some of those video games, like where you position each building. I just kind of thought it was cool. And I
was expecting more like schools and universities and cathedrals and stuff. I was like, where's that going to be?
Yeah, exactly. Like he didn't mention any of that, but I was actually going to say, well, I think he mentioned schools, but I think the fact that Minas Tirith has been talked about as being like the Rome of Gondor, like the Rome of like the Empire of Gondor. I'd like to imagine that there were universities, colleges, theaters, gardens, villas, aqueducts, temples, baths, monoliths, town halls, all that kind of sort of thing. Just all that kind of stuff to make the city more vibrant and alive. But that's
little art gallery.
Yeah, little art gallery. What else? What else would you have in there? Brothels.
Some nice, of course.
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
On every level.
Tapas areas. So we
Tapas?
have some like soirees.
Suarez?
Even by Luis Suarez's standards, it was a shocking moment.
Yeah. Tapas, I already said brothels.
What about a car park? You know, car park
I
somewhere.
know. Well, no, they had the underground car park, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Where do they park their horses? Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of fun to think about, and it's definitely something I would have done as a kid. I don't know why I never did, but like drawing out the levels of Minas Tirith and like imagining what went into each one. I'd love to see like a really
Such
well
nerds.
done version of that. Yeah, I know, but like still, it's cool. But if anyone wants to do that,
myself.
all right. If anyone wants to actually do that, send it in, or else just like let us know what your like ideas of what was on each level, what buildings were in Minas Tirith. That'd be pretty cool because there's lots of blank spaces there to be filled out.
Yeah, that would be very good.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So you can tweet us or send us a message, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you could just drop it into the comments there.
And it'd be cool to see people's art skills as well.
Art skills. Is that what you said?
They're art. I said art skills.
Oh, art skills. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't.
I agree.
Sorry, I don't enunciate so perfectly. I'm saying art skills. Maybe it does sound like arse skills.
I heard art skills, but the mind wants what it
You
wants.
just have art skills on the mind. Yeah.
Got bum in the brain.
Just because you have a lot of skills with your arse,
I do.
Don't put all the rest of us to shame.
That's true. So we aren't really sure what. We aren't sure if the 7 levels were built at once or if they just kept expanding upwards and upwards over time. But we do know that various aspects of the city were completed at later points. We do know that the White Tower on top was constructed in the year 1900 of the Third Age, which is about 100 years before the fall of Minas Ithil, which was built to house the Palantir by King Kalimetar. Also, on each level was a gate positioned as far away from the previous level's gate as possible. So if you're looking at me now, you'd have like one on like the far east, and then you go up that level, and then the next gate was on the far west, and it kind of just basically it was designed to make invaders zigzag back and forth as they climb the levels. So this city is just basically impenetrable, or it's so hard to attack. It must be so.
It also seems like it'd be really hard to just move around as well for the locals.
Yeah, it must be a pain. Imagine you're like on the top floor and you're like, where are the bathrooms? And you're like the ground floor, and you're like, oh my god.
Especially if you got the runs.
Oh god, if you got the runs, yeah. You got to be running to get to the runs.
Like, all right, honey, I'm just going to stay down on the ground floor all day.
Yeah. And she's like, get out of that brothel. I'm like, no, I swear I got the runs. All right. So to get to the 7th and final level, you must go through a path carved into the rock sail. This is designed so that invaders climbing the final steps could have things thrown down onto them like burning oil or rubble. Like I said, Minas Tirith wasn't initially meant as a city, it was built as a fortress. So it's quite reminiscent of actual castles and things from history where they had all these defenses put in place. Like, you'd have the gate, and then you'd have like an area where they're trying to get to the second gate, and that's where you'd fire in arrows or hot oil and whatnot. So yeah, that's the way it was built.
Pretty badass. So yeah, as you said, like a stronghold, keeping people out. Don't let them in. So it wasn't built to be like a homely, let's just pop up to level 3, see what they're doing kind of thing. That it wasn't that sort of a situation.
No. Up at level 3, they're like sharpening their axes, pointing their blades and all that kind of crack. But the Great White City, known for its white walls, but in the book, the outer wall, or city wall, or sometimes called the Othram, was completely black or very dark grey. Do you know why this was the case, Jonathan?
Which was dark grey or black? The city wall.
Yeah, it's not actually depicted in Peter Jackson's one in his films, but the whole city was white. It was beautiful. It was like really bright, shining, like almost like marble. But then you've got the very bottom, the ground level city wall. So like the outermost wall, which is where like they would be defending against like the siege attack. That was actually black or extremely dark grey anyways. So I'm just curious, do you know why that would be the case?
Oh, well, just, the dynamic look of it. It would probably look beautiful if it's very deep black. I don't know. Maybe because there was loads of blood spilt on it, and they were like, well, if it's black, we won't see all that blood. We don't want it getting all muddy. Well, mud and dirt from the ground. Maybe like, all the passing traffic at the bottom, like all the cars would be like splattering mud up on top of the walls. And like, we need to paint these walls black because, we can't be having this.
So you think kind of like the same way car designers or people would go for black cars just so they wouldn't get very dirty or noticeable. That's why they had the outer city dark.
Maybe. I don't know. Or as I would say, just the juxtaposition of having like the real like striking dark wall and then against the bright marbly one. I don't know. I have no idea. Well, I'm sure there's probably an actual reason.
I'll give you a hint. So can you think of another Gondorian structure that is completely dark in the Lord of the Rings?
Isengard.
Yes. So Orthanc, basically.
The Tower of Orthanc, yes.
Yes, so...
Is it just because of the material that they had at that time, at that period?
Exactly, yeah. So it wasn't down to paint or anything. It was the outer city wall was built by the Númenóreans, who used the exact same stone, skills and techniques to build Orthanc. So if the film was trying to be extremely accurate, maybe the outer wall would have looked something more similar to the wall of Orthanc. The Tower of Orthanc. The wall is famously impenetrable, and the orcs don't even bother trying to break down the wall, as they know nothing could destroy it. So they put all their focus on the Achilles heel, which is the gate, and that's what they eventually get Grand up to smash down. But yeah, basically that wall is impenetrable because of the stone and rock that was used.
So that was, you said it was built by the Númenóreans, but it was just built by, they were using stone, or where was the stone from, a different area? Did they like transport that?
I assume
from Númenor. Obviously Númenor was probably not around at the time, but
yeah, I doubt it's from Númenor. I don't know actually what the stone is. I'd like to look into that more.
It couldn't be like farming stone, but like, we've got good stone that we're farming now in this land, and we use this stone for whatever.
Well,
the strongest materials.
Yeah, maybe.
Unless they like treated the stone with some sort of like, right, we're gonna get a big, slab of stone and then pour oil over it and, light it on fire and do some different like treating process things, and maybe twinkle a bit of like salt on top of it and see if that does the job.
Well, I think it was a combination of the actual stone itself and the like skills and techniques they used to actually like make it into a wall or make it into Orthanc Tower. So I'm not really sure, but I'm guessing that the fact that like, they built the Tower of Orthanc, but the fact that they only use it on the outer wall, they mustn't have had too much of it. And I highly doubt they brought it over from Númenor, but maybe wherever they sourced this rock, they had to use it sparingly. So they thought the outer gate would have been the outer wall would have been the most important one. So yeah,
sure,
there you go.
Of course.
But I don't really know.
That's class. That's cool.
It is cool. And you can see lots of like old school artists. Well, not only old school artists, but a lot of like older depictions of Minas Tirith does have that, maybe not completely jet black, but like very dark outer city wall, and it's strikingly different to the rest of the White City. So yeah, it's worth having a look. Yeah, worth having a look indeed.
So, and also it just looks cool as well. So
yeah,
good 10 points to Johnny for saying, why did they do this? Because it looks cool.
It does look cool. Maybe they just were like, actually, we ran out of rock and we can't build the rest of the city in this cool black. So there you go.
To be fair, the actual view or the actual look of Orthanc in the Peter Jackson movies is so cool. I love the facade of the building just looks incredible. It just looks like, I don't know, it's almost like soundproofing or something like that. It just feels like if you just touch the wall, it's kind of got this kind of soft sort of, I don't even know, silky sort of feel to it. I just want to give that tower a hug.
It doesn't really look like stone. It kind of just looks like, I don't know, like plasticky metal or something. But again, that's...
But I also think, like, I feel like if I rub my hand against the edge of it, like, my hand would be wet. For some reason. I don't know why.
It's like...
I feel like it's got, like, wet stone.
It's probably made by the same product that Grima puts in his hair. And it's just, like, all greasy and rank and wet.
You want oily hair? I've got the shit for you.
Yeah. So in chapter 1 of The Return of the King, Minas Tirith, we read, Pippin gazed in growing wonder at the great stone city, faster and more splendid than anything he had dreamed of, greater and stronger than Isengard, and far more beautiful. Yet it was in truth falling year by year into decay, and already it lacked half the men that could have dwelt at ease there. So I wanted to throw in that quote because, first of all, it's just a nice little quote talking about the beauty of the city, but also the fact that it talks about how half the men half the men dwell there that could, whatever I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
half the men that are there, there could be more.
I know half of you have as well as I should like.
And I like less than half you have
men in the city.
Yeah, exactly. But
obviously it means that the people that live there had way more space, and they weren't all squashed and living on top of each other.
That's true. It's no
Hong
Kong.
I don't see it as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll probably talk more about the Pelennor Fields in another podcast, but despite Pippin's observation, together Minas Tirith, along with the Pelennor Fields during the War of the Ring, held the majority of the population of Gondor, which is actually crazy to think because, it's big. The Pelennor Fields as well, that stretches around Minas Tirith is quite big as well. But like Gondor is huge. It's really vast, and like more than half the population are all like squashed into this tiny city. And even then,
it's like Dublin.
It's only half the amount of people. Yeah, I know, but it's just kind of crazy, like to think about like what the hell is going on in the rest of Gondor. Like not an awful lot, obviously.
Sure, what's going on in Offaly? Nothing.
Don't want to
shout out to our listeners in Offaly.
There are no listeners in Offaly. They don't have podcasts there yet, or YouTube.
Coming soon.
Coming
2024 podcast coming to Offaly.
Yeah.
We shouldn't shit on Offaly. It's
Yeah.
a lovely place, but it's sparse. There's not many people living there. There's not much going on. So maybe like the whole of Gondor, that wasn't the cities. So I don't know. It does happen sometimes. Like I was saying, just in Ireland, that's the example that we can go by because that's where we're from. Where Dublin has like half of the population of the country just piled into a small enough city. So
that's true. I think there are other examples in real life as well. I think
I'm sure.
Like I think Mongolia is like an absolutely ginormous country, but everyone lives
enormous.
in the like main city, which the name escapes me.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's just like the majority of the population of Mongolia just lives in this one big huge city.
Mongolia on the map is like enormous.
Yeah, it's I always forget about it. I'm
like China. You're like, oh my god, that place is huge.
Yeah, it's just one of those countries that's, I don't know, it's probably one of the biggest in the world, but you never think of it. And then whenever you see it on the map, you're like, oh my god, what the hell is this huge country here? Oh, Mongolia.
That's because they don't make anything like everything that you have in your house. You look at it like, oh, made in China, made in China, made in Taiwan the odd time, but made in China. And like, there's nothing made in Mongolia, so it's like, we forget about them.
Yeah, that's true. Like I've even seen made in Vietnam. I've got a couple of glasses that are made in Vietnam, so there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Mongolia, come on, let's get making stuff, get creative. I actually don't think we've
your produce making. Yeah,
I don't think we've any listeners from Mongolia.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what the Mongolian flag looks like. So
no, but like every so often I go through like the listeners of the world or like all the countries that listen to our podcast, and there's loads. Like
no Mongolians.
I don't think so.
We have most of the rest of Asia listening.
If you have any Mongolian friends, please share this podcast with them.
Come on, we want to get that flag.
Yeah, we want to break through Mongolia.
Just like the way they broke through the walls of China.
Yeah. Right. So you might not know it if you've only seen the Peter Jackson trilogy, but if you are traveling to Minas Tirith before you reach the city walls, you will come to the Ramas Ekor, or the Ramas, which it's sometimes referred to, which was a great wall surrounding Minas Tirith and the enclosing Pelennor Fields. It was built by Denethor II's father, Ecthelion, as a second line of defence, first being the River Anduin. The northern gate on the Great West Road was called the Foreignness. If you remember the Return of the King game as well, that's where, do you remember that level where the troll, like you're fighting outside the gate and then the troll jumps over and you can like pour hot lava. So that's actually the Ramas Ekor.
Okay.
Yeah, so the wall is almost 10 leagues long. So how long is that? Do you have any idea how long a league is?
It's 38 games.
Standard league, yeah. The Premier League. No, but in terms of like length and girth, how long is a league?
How many girth hangs is it? I don't know. A league. I've no idea. I'm going to say 20 kilometers.
Jeez. No, a league is 3 miles, but that's...
Oh, right.
That's yeah, it's long. Like, so the wall is 10 leagues long, so that's 30 miles long. This wall is, and the furthest point from Minas Tirith is the Eastern Gate, which is 4 leagues away and is the gate to Osgiliath. So the Ramas Ekor may have 7 gates, but we're not really sure because in the opening chapter of Return of the King, again called Minas Tirith, Gandalf and Pippin bump into a man guarding one of the gates of the Ramas Echor. His name was Ingold, and he says, quote, "Yeah, truly, we know you, Mithrandir," said the leader of the men, "and you know the passwords of the 7 gates and are free to go forward." But it isn't clear if Ingold was actually referring to the 7 gates of Minas Tirith, or was he just talking about one of the gates that Gandalf was trying to pass through. So it's not very clear. There are some, there are names of some of the gates. I think we know at least 4. I don't know, but I think in general, like, we know that there are like 4 gates.
We know, but we don't know.
Exactly. We don't know, but like it is known that there is at least 3 or 4 gates on this wall, but there could be 7. But yeah. So the land between the Ramas Echor and Minas Tirith, as mentioned before, is called the Pelennor Fields, which literally translates to the fenced land. And this is where, in case anyone doesn't know, this is where the battle outside Minas Tirith took place. So you often hear that referred to as the Battle of Pelennor Fields. I do think it's interesting that the shot of Faramir charging outside Minas Tirith, you know, in the films, where he's like charging out and he goes to attack Osgiliath. Really cool scene, but it's actually completely off because he should be going through luscious lands and farmlands and towns, and then through the gates of the Ramas Echor before finally reaching Osgiliath, which is over 15 miles away. But the movie just makes it look like it's basically on the doorstep. So again, it's one of those things where, you know, it's less dramatic if he's like, right, I'm going for like a 2-day charge. But yeah, we will talk about that in another podcast, because I think we're going to discuss the Pelennor Fields in more detail. But
we sure will.
Yeah. So there you go, the Ramas Echor.
Ramas Echor. Wow, it's a cool sounding name as well. I like it.
Yeah, it's like Sergio Ramos, Encore. Before we actually finish as well, we talked about it in a previous episode. I think it was the parallels of Middle Earth, about where Peter Jackson drew inspiration for Minas Tirith. Do you happen to remember where it was, or like what city he based it on?
Did you not say it was Rome?
Yeah, well,
or that's more of the Tolkien kind of thing, was it?
No,
I know that we've said before that Peter Jackson kind of took it from a lot of places in Italy, like, you know, like we've said Cinque Terre a few times before, or places around Tuscany, and I can't remember where else. I don't know.
Yeah, like
other.
You're right with everything there. First of all, yeah,
okay.
The Rome of Middle Earth, or the Rome of Gondor, I suppose. But I think he took inspiration from lots of things. As in, it was the Rome of Gondor in the fact that, like, it's where all the trumpets are heard, and like that's where people come and gasp upon this amazing
Colosseum, the games, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, that scene in Gladiator when they're arriving into Rome for the first time, and they just see like the streets and the flowers coming overhead and the trumpets, and it's cool. But also, you're also correct. It was mainly Italian, with the design of columns and pillars and archways, the statues carved into the gates, and etc., etc. But the actual look of the fortress, which we mentioned before, was based on.
Give me a hint.
It's a castle.
Okay. Is it an Italian castle?
No, it's French.
I'm not going to get it.
Mount Sacré Bleu. No, it's Mount Saint Michel in France. So if you actually look up images for this, it's pretty cool. It's like it's kind of like Minas Tirith. It's not built into a rock. I think it's actually built. Is it on an island? But it's like got this surrounding city wall, and then it's got a kind of a couple of tiers up, and then the like keep is up high. I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's very moundy. But, so that's what Minas Tirith was kind of based on for.
But you're saying that's Peter Jackson's inspiration, yeah?
Yeah, that was his inspiration, but
it wasn't Tolkien's inspiration. Like,
I don't think so. Yeah, I was actually thinking that myself. This is Peter Jackson's inspiration, is it? But again, Peter Jackson's inspiration is first and foremost Tolkien, and there was plenty of images drawn up by artists at the time, and I think Tolkien might have done an image himself of Minas Tirith, possibly.
What he might have done one of his own drawings or sketches.
I think so.
I'm sure he would have, because like he did loads of sketches. Like he was a good artist as well. Tolkien.
Yeah, I can just off the top of my head I can remember
his own
like
illustrations for most of his books.
Yeah, like he's got Orthanc. He's got like one of Hobbiton. I know he's got that one of like the two towers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe I think he might have done one from Minas Tirith as well. So finally, we've looked at the history and everything of Minas Tirith, but then we've got the fourth age. So after the films have ended and the books are done, do you actually know off the top of your head anything that happened in the fourth age with Minas Tirith? So like after Aragorn was crowned king, or did you know anything that they did with the city or anything like that?
I can't think of it really. Like I know that it flourished and it prospered and all that kind of stuff, and maybe lots more people came back to live there. And I'm not really sure what you're referring to exactly. There's probably something very obvious I can't think.
No, you're not. Like I was just saying off the top of your head if there was something. Yeah, you're right. Like it definitely prospered, and Minas Tirith basically, because obviously there was a big war on. There was the Pelennor Fields, and then there was the siege on Minas Tirith itself. So it was repaired by its new king Aragorn and new queen Arwen, but it was with the help of the dwarves of Erebor actually, and particularly Gimli, who built the new gate using mithril and steel. The city was also repaved with white marble to represent strength, and Legolas and the elves of Mirkwood contributed by planting new trees and gardens, bringing life and renewal back to the city.
Ah, that's class.
Yeah, so like you said, it was said to have been made even more beautiful than it was at the time of its founding, and the city was known to be stood firm and strong well into the Fourth Age, and the city was sure to see grand prosperity in the ages to come, even after the death of its king and queen. So I think it's in safe hands for the next couple of ages at least, which is probably thousands.
It's class
of
like
years.
how that obviously that's the age when the elves left and the kind of dwarves disappeared into their little holes and stuff, and it became like the age of men, and it was all about men going forward. But the dwarves and the elves had such a big influence then on the biggest, most important city, which is really cool. They'd given their little touch of like mithril to protect the doors, and then the elves, or the wood elves at East Legolas, was kind of like, let's plant a few trees here, and it's going to be lovely, and little touch here and there. That's really nice that there's a little sprinkle on it.
Yeah, it's got something from all the clans of Middle Earth, which is nice. It's such a proper like, and they all lived happily ever after, isn't it? It's just got like all the
completely
all the races of Middle Earth coming together, planting their seeds, and then going off into the sunset.
That's cool. It's very nice.
Yeah, so that's all I have on Minas Tirith.
A mean ass Tirith. Well, I mean, I was going to ask you a question about the Minas Anor. Is that Anor?
Yeah, Anor.
Okay.
Anor, but I always say Arnor.
Yeah, because the first time you said it, I don't know if you said it or if I heard Minas Arnor, because I was like, oh, like the kingdom of Arnor. So I was like, what's the relationship with there?
Yeah, I know. I just always get those. I always get those two words mixed up. It's Minas Anor, but Arnor,
and then we have the
kingdom of Arnor.
We have the Ainur as well, which were.
Oh, stop!
Yeah, I know. Stop it, would you?
Stop the lights now.
Would you stop altogether now? Get out of here with that kind of talk.
Yeah, the Ainur, Minas Anor, and Arnor. Yeah, that's right. Actually, I actually forgot of the kingdom of Arnor, and I just knew Arnor was a word. And I was like, isn't that how it's pronounced? But no, yeah, Anor. Good spot.
No, never mind. No, I was, because just when you mentioned that initially, I was kind of going, oh, so that's what the kingdom of Arnor means. And now I've already forgot what you told me Minas Anor means. What did it mean?
The city of the sun.
Sun city of the sun. Exactly, sun city. So I was like, oh, the kingdom of the sun would be the kingdom of Arnor, but no.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I kind of want to look up what Arnor means. Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed that. I feel like I know a lot more now about the city of Minas Tirith and the surrounding areas. And I always we had that in a previous episode as well, when we kind of did some speculation into what we thought might be in certain different places and whatever. So it's nice to hear someone online, what was it, that blogger's name, like the something?
Yeah, it was like Middle Earth Architect. So he doesn't have a name. But
that's cool. Yeah, but I'm sure like there's probably loads of people with different speculations online. And since you just said it to me and you kind of put me on the spot, I was like, oh, I don't know now really, but I'd like to sit down and kind of reimagine it, I suppose, and kind of think, oh, if I were like the city planner for Minas Tirith, where would I put this? And like, there have to be a reason for each of these things. And like kind of going, okay, well, obviously this person needs to be close to the top, but not too high up because, they're only middle class. They need to pay their dues. They can't be just going up there to the upper classes, so, but yeah, that's, it's cool. It'd be interesting. Or even just to kind of like reimagine it completely. Like I was saying, imagine like each level had much bigger spaces, or like imagine maybe just one particular, like, okay, level 4 is much deeper, so that's where we put the football pitches.
So then it kind of goes up the first like 4 levels, and then there's a huge deepness, and then it goes way back, and then you've got the rest.
Think
of the
of think of a staircase. Think of a staircase where you've got like a bit of a landing in the middle, and it's like you could have it like that as well, where you've got like a few levels, and then you've got one level in the middle which is a bit wider. And that could be like a bit of a separation. That's where you got that could be where you do all your activities.
Exactly. You can do your pantheons, colosseums, and theaters, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you can put in big giant like Aldi's and Walmarts and stuff.
Yeah,
as well.
That's where you can, when you go to like Outlook stores. What is the name of those where you have Outlook stores? Yeah, where you have like a huge Nike, huge Adidas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, So 4th floor. That's where it's happening. That's
like the big. The big mall or the big shopping center. That's where that will be. Like, because you go with your mates on a Friday evening, you kind of going to go shopping, and then we're going to have a latte, and then we're going to go to the cinema and play laser tag, and
then we go to the food court, the Plaza. It's like chill out there for a while.
Then we watch a few beheadings, and
no, you have to go to Osgiliath for the beheadings.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, actually, yeah. Even when Osgiliath is taken over, if you want to be beheaded, you just go to Osgiliath. I'm sure you're going to see lots of beheadings there, like whether they're royal or not. So, and also on that guy that we were just talking about there, that blogger dude, I didn't mention it in the rest of the episode, but for anyone that actually wants to check out that guy's blog, it's pretty cool because at the end he talks about, I think he studied Greek mythology, and was it like he studied like the language of Greek as well. And he talks about how, do you know the labyrinth, the famous story where the Minotaur is like being kept in this
Pan's labyrinth?
No, like Pan's Labyrinth, that's the movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, do you know the like ancient, I don't know, the like folklore thing of like the Minotaur being like kept in some labyrinth, and the only way he could get out is if he like followed this code. So that if you actually look at that famous labyrinth, it's kind of like, if anyone's watching on YouTube, it starts in the middle, it goes up, and then it kind of does a circular design, and then a circular design again. And it's so difficult to get out. And then this blogger dude, he shows how to get in and out of Minas Tirith if you're going through all the levels, and you go up and you go to the first door here, the first gate, and then you have to go to the next gate here in the next level, and it kind of resembles a little bit the labyrinth kind of thing. And then he goes on to talk about how the name Minotaur comes from the place where this labyrinth was called Minos in
Minas
Greece.
Tirith.
Exactly. So he was like, Minos is a place in Greece, which is the first part of Minotaur, and then he's got Taurus, which is kind of similar to Tirith. So he's like Minos Taurus or Minas Tirith, and he kind of just threw that in as some like random
cool.
kind of, it was kind of cool. I was reading it, I was like, this is dumb, and then when I got to the end of it, I was like, oh my god, there's so many levels to this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it had like absolutely nothing to do with anything, but it's it probably has nothing to do with anything, but it's really cool. It's like
one of those like Illuminati confirmed things. Sure, where you're like, oh my god. But do you know when you, yeah, do you know when you see those things of someone being like the kind of hitting the blunt thing, where it's like a person standing in front of you is actually the furthest person standing behind you, or something like that. Do you ever hear those kind of things?
Yeah.
Or like, if you sleep on 2 pillows, the second pillow's pillow is a pillow. Or something like that.
Are those things like, this is the oldest you've ever been, but it's also the youngest you will ever be. In this
Yeah.
You're like,
Things
whoa.
like that. Whoa. Yeah. So it's kind of like one of those things, but I highly recommend checking it out. Well, that's it this week from us Mellons on the Council of Elrond. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into this absolutely fascinating city. And please let us know if there's anything that we missed, because it truly is one of my favourite locations in all of Middle-earth. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at Mellon_heads. That's Mellon with 2 L's, by the way. Or on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. All of our links are provided in the podcast info section. And guys, please don't forget to check us out on YouTube now if you actually want to see our beautiful orc-like faces in small clips from our podcasts. And also, thank you so much to all the people that have already signed up to be patrons after just a couple of days. You guys are all legends. If you want to sign up to our Patreon, you can find the link in the podcast info section also. But until next time, my fellow Mellons, goodbye.